Good evening. My name is Heather Barta. I am the coordinator of Province 5, and we are here tonight to do a preview night of a Bible study for Lent, Escaping the Whale, the Queen, and the Valley, Healing and Understanding the Suicidal Crisis. We have with us our creators and leaders, Stephen Cook and Bob Flanagan. Thanks for being with us tonight to tell us about this great program.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, excited, and thankful to join you all this evening. Yeah. Well, Stephen, do you want to jump in and then I'll follow on if we can start that way?
I would just like to say that and I think Bob as well, are really very excited about this study in suicide prevention and biblical study. And we've thought an awful lot about it and worked on this project for quite a while. And we come at it from slightly different perspectives, but I think together we're a great team, and we're really looking forward to interacting with different folks who will be part of this Lenten study. And so I just want to say it's really a pleasure and a delight and an honor to be here and to be working with you again, Bob.
Yeah, Stephen, it's good to be back. I'm going to give folks a little bit of history to start with, a little bit about my journey, and to give background for all of this. As I mentioned, as we were heading into all of this evening, Dr. Cook and I are college classmates, if you will, a year apart, but we knew each other in undergrad, and then reconnected when I came to Virginia for my MDiv, and then again when I received my or earned my doctorate of ministry as well. So he and I have been longtime friends and colleagues now, and which is fun, and it's been a pleasure for us to work together. A little bit about kind of how I wound up in the work I do with suicide prevention. During my seminary years, I wound up in having a suicidal crisis, if you will. And the follow-on years of therapy and counseling and working through all of that didn't stop me from becoming ordained and nor held me up, but through the support and good work of a lot of people that I came through all of that, and it created in me certainly an interest and longing and to help others as they face similar circumstances. And so on that, or since that, I've for over a decade have worked with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which is the leading not-for-profit funder of research and advocacy and fundraising for suicide prevention in the U.S. And they in their work, I've worked in a variety of positions, including advocacy and board work, but also walk work and a variety of support in teaching and evaluating of different programs that are offered in educational avenues, especially in light of or in the connection of religion. And within that, and during that, my getting to know all of that led me to become aware of, in conversations over the years, of what really is a deficiency in kind of interpreting suicide in the biblical scripture. And generally, there's this historical understanding that Judas hung himself, therefore suicide is bad. All suicide is bad, and we bury people outside the church grounds. and don't participate in the pastoral care of or support of someone after they've ended their lives. That's a wholly deficient and really an archaic way of looking at suicide, and particularly looking at suicide prevention and suicidal crisis and ideation in the Bible. And so what Dr. Cook, in his outstanding work as an Old Testament professor and his understanding of Hebrew scripture, was able to re-examine the texts and bring out to us a series of readings, one with a queen, one with a whale, and one that happens in a valley. And in those, we hope to develop for everyone in participating a new understanding of suicide in biblical terms, suicidal crisis, and our understanding of suicide prevention as we can see it within the scriptural text. So that's a bit of my journey, and I kind of hand over to I think at this point, but back to Dr. Cook, and let you pick up their story there.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. I just turned 60, and so I think I've lived enough years to have experienced some loss and pain, and as a biblical theologian, many years of teaching and reflecting to really try to dive into some of these really difficult questions about life and why life is worth living, and what makes for a life that one values and doesn't want to leave through suicide. My own experience with suicide, I think, started in high school, where I was innocently in a physics lab working on physics experiments. We suddenly heard what sounded like a firecracker going off in the hallway. Some of us looked out the door into the hallway, and this high school kid, whom I actually knew, wasn't a close friend, but had known, had shot himself in the head. And the whole school was just, completely beside themselves, didn't know what to do. The administrators didn't know what to say. The principal lasted about a month and had to resign because he just never conceived of anything like this happening. It turned out that since my dad was a neurosurgeon, he was the surgeon that dealt with him. So he came home that night, and we put 2 and 2 together and realized, okay, both of our days and lives had been affected by this. And so it's a vivid memory, but oftentimes suicide isn't something people expect or know how to deal with. And from the other side, when you're trying to help somebody with having to deal with the death of a loved one through suicide, it's very hard to say the right thing or not say the right thing. I think one of the bishops that Bob and I have worked with said that when his brother committed suicide, no one said the right thing, and many people said exactly the wrong thing. But what you do discover once you talk about suicide or express willingness to talk about it is that it's much more common than you would expect. And those people who are caught off guard with an experience of it, that may just be largely because society still has quite a veil of disease and shame surrounding it. But one of the things I noticed, I think we've talked about this, Bob, is that after we've done videos and presentations to large audiences on this, that we've suddenly discovered that many people around us have had similar experiences, or have had folks that have had suicide in their lives. And suddenly, because we're talking about it, they feel free. Oh, okay, well, if Professor Cook or Professor Flanagan have experienced this, then there's no shame in my talking about it, which is good. I mean, part of the reason for even doing this and being involved in a Bible study like this is to start to remove that veneer of disease and shame from around it. So I'm very privileged to be part of this, and I want to thank you, Bob, for including me. And I think some of our studies of the biblical text have really helped me and the students and others to grapple with some of these deep questions, because you can't get into some of these texts and into this area of suicide prevention and not grapple with some of the real tragic sense of life, some of the real complexities of life and existence, what makes a life worth living, how could someone do this, would I want to undo it if I could, can any good ever come out of it? All of these questions arise and people struggle with them, and most people struggle at least 10 years to even move beyond a suicide of someone that someone close to them, and you never really move beyond it, but just to move ahead, it's a huge work of effort. So anything we can do to work at that as a church and as scholars and as Episcopalians, Christians, I think it's very, very important and very crucial that we do that.
Vehemently agree, as it was. So let's kind of break down a little bit of what we're going to do and kind of our intentions and that kind of thing. So our hope with you all, with Province 5, is that our study, that we can develop a study that will be able to be used independently of the two of us, that people can take and use at their congregations or use in individual settings or in other group settings. And so in a sense, we're test driving this with Province 5, and we're really appreciative to Heather and Kathy for helping us with this, because it gave us the focus that I think the two of us needed around this, to kind of say, okay, we've got a deadline, we've got a program, and we're going to pull this together. Though we've been, really been thinking about doing something along this line for a while now. So we're really happy to have you all as a part of this, as we do this. So material is new. The material, the written material that we're going to share with you is fresh in our minds, and likely need tweaking, and would open for your suggestions as we go forward, and thinkings, and what are we really interested in, kind of what really spoke to you, what was really helpful. We will also, Dr. Cook has put together and is creating along with us as a parallel resource of a website. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Stephen?
Yeah, Bob and I have purposed a web space where we hope to post general description of the Lenten study, but also some links that will help you all prepare, if you want to, for deeper engagement each week as it goes forward. So essentially, yes, that's it. It's really easy to remember. VTS, which is my seminary, Virginia Theological Seminary, vts.guru. And through that website, you can have easy access to the text of the week, and also to some study guides. And we also want to throw in, if you have time, and again, advanced preparation is not required. You're welcome to come with any amount of preparation ahead of time, but some people will get interested and want to dig deeper and want to be prepared for some good conversation. This series is not intended as just being us talking at you.
Right.
We want to create a community of interest around the text and around the question of suicide. And so any preparation you can do, or any reflection ahead of time you can do, is great. And this website hopefully will facilitate that. And we plan to put resources there and links for the week ahead as to a study guide and some art to reflect with, and even maybe some 3D virtual reality to interact with. So we are excited about the website, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah. So I think the plan for us is that each the preceding Tuesday to our each week. So we'll begin. How about this? On Shrove Tuesday, everyone that has signed up will receive the first study material, the study guide.
That's a week from today, right? The 21st.
Yep. And so, and then what we'll do is we meet on Monday evenings, and depending on your time zone, we'll meet here on Zoom. And it's really, what we really want to do is have this set up so that we all can interact with the text and with each other. So there's a series, each week we'll have about a dozen questions that end anywhere from half a chapter of an Old Testament book, or a psalm, or maybe as much as 2 chapters. That'll be required. The reading for the week, we'll say. And so the reading that we will be interacting with as a group. And so our hope is that you'll dig in and get excited about reading about Elijah, Ezekiel, Jonah, and one of the Psalms, and be able to kind of dig in and say, wow, okay, we're going to look at the scripture from a different vantage point of just kind of reading the text for what it is. We're going to look at it, things for like, well, what is Elijah's emotional state? How is he feeling? What do you kind of see with that? What is Jonah doing, and how is he interacting? So those are the kind of fun, really fun, interesting, engaging ways that we can work with the text together and learn and really study the material in depth.
Let me just jump in, Bob, just to reiterate
please.
What you're saying. Sometimes I think Bible study gets a little bit of a bad name, particularly Old Testament Bible study, unfortunately. But this, I think, is not your typical Bible study. We're not going to. Was it William James? You gave a talk on this once, with the dawn of
some modern psychology,
approaches to suicide.
Yeah.
His basic assessment of all of church history was that the best Christians can do is point to texts that were suicides in the Bible and say, don't do that.
Right.
So this is not what we're going to be doing. We're going to be
not
looking at texts that in which there's a clear portrayals and poetic and deep descriptions of what it feels like to be sucked down into the sort of ideations and feelings that overwhelm and make one want to stop life.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to grapple with those poetic, metaphoric, symbolic, archetypal descriptions that the Bible presents in a way, through doing so, to really get at the deep spirituality and psychology that's involved here. So we're quite serious about this. It's not a Sunday school lesson, but a serious grappling. And I think because of that, we do at least want to have a certain truth in advertising, or be a little bit careful before you sign up.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to be. I would say that we may, if Dr. Cook is who he is, you're going to hear some Hebrew words. You're gonna hear some of the rich language that the Hebrew text has, but he's not going to leave you hanging out there in the cold, like saying, "Okay, you know what I mean." he's not that kind of old Hebrew scripture, Old Testament scholar. He's going to give you the scaffolding that that so many of us need when approaching a foreign language, for us to be able to understand it, and frankly understand it in the way that perhaps the NRSV or other translations that we have just leave us short, and to be able to get in behind some of the editor's choices to see more of the nuances of those words. And I think, that is very compelling and very interesting as a part of a study. So I think it's what you'll find is we're going to, as I mentioned, Dr. Cook earlier today, Stephen today, I said, wow, I feel like I'm being parachuted in, kind of just dropped into the middle of this wider story. And I said, we're going to need some context to kind of get everybody grounded. But that's a part of how we're doing this, is that we're not going to leave you in the cold of kind of going, okay, who was Ezekiel? It's been a while since I've dealt with Elijah. I know we hear him every now and then on a Sunday, but I need some more here. So, and that's what this approach is going to do. It just, as Stephen said, we're going to get into what I hope is into the mental state, the real emotional state of these characters, of these biblical figures, and in a way that brings them to light in something that you will find interesting. I think we've sold them on it.
You better check in with them.
Yeah. So I think we did we've done the logistics here. So we'll work with Heather and Kathy to get out the materials by Tuesday evening. The reason we're going to say Tuesday evening is in case we on Monday night kind of go, let's add this week. And so we may spend some time on Tuesday or adjusting some of it to fit your needs, to make sure that we're dialing this in well. And then we just ask you to come with an open mind and an open heart to this, and to be with us. The other piece I would add to this is, just as an acknowledgement, is that we're going to be talking about subject material that is very compelling, can be very emotionally moving, perhaps bring up memories that are raw and difficult. And what I would say is remember all of that. If you need help, reach out, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If you need to say, okay, this is a little bit too much, this is as far as I can go today, and step out of the session, we understand that. We totally can appreciate that, given our own personal stories. So what I would like just to say is to understand that, kind of afterwards, take care of yourself and understand that, okay, yeah, we might have shifted some sands here in your emotional self, and that to be aware of that, and to be generous in spirit as you go forward on that. Would you like to add anything else, as I guess we're really kind of wrapping up here? So
yeah. If people need to go, that's fine. I if we do have time, I'd love to just hear anyone present, questions, thoughts, reflections.
Yeah, so we'll wrap up our Heather. This will conclude our formal time together, and for those that are watching this at a later point, please feel free to join in, and even if it's for one session, we will gladly welcome you, and I think you will find that it's rewarding.
Yeah, you can jump in later. You don't have to do this in the exact sequence, right, to get things out of it. It's not, it's not going to be that way. You can jump in halfway through and you'll be fine.
Super. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Heather.